Mrs. Johnston back today. We are still in Unit 9, Columbus and the Pilgrims. We are on Lesson 6, Colonies in Native American Lands. When was Columbus's first voyage to America? Did you remember 1492? What was Columbus hoping to find when he reached his destination? Did you say gold and spices? Columbus's voyage sparked interest in what Europeans believed was newly discovered land. Many people from Europe became interested in the Americas. The next few read alouds take place more than 100 years after Columbus's first voyage. They tell the story of a group of people called the Pilgrims who traveled from Europe to America for different reasons than Columbus did. Columbus died believing that he had reached the Indies, but that future explorers proved him wrong. Over the next 100 years, European explorers learned a lot that Europeans had not previously known. The more people learned, the more their map of the world changed. Let's look back at the map that shows what Europeans thought the world looked like in Columbus's time. So I have the globe of today, and the image shows the globe what it looked like in Columbus's time. Let's compare how they are different. So, the world map of today and the map of 1492 show both Europe and Asia. The world map of today includes North and South America, but the image of the map of 1492 does not show the North America and South America existed. Today's map looks very much like the map used during the time of the Pilgrims. It has continents and oceans on the current world map. Today's read aloud begins on the continent of Europe. Today's read aloud takes place in a country called England. Remember, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella lived in Spain. Giovanni and Sophia lived in Italy. You are going to hear a story today about a group of people called the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims were not always called pilgrims. That is because the word pilgrim means someone who makes a very long journey, far from home. When the story first begins, the Pilgrims had not left home, so they were not pilgrims yet. Instead, they were known as the Separatists. Listen carefully to the read aloud to find out why the Separatists wanted to leave England. Do you remember which country's king and queen helped Columbus sail across the ocean from Europe? That's right. It was Spain. Columbus was one of the first explorers to visit what they called the New World. Explorers travel to unfamiliar places to find or learn something. But after Columbus's voyages, many other countries in Europe began sending their own explorers, hoping to find gold and jewels. Their men sailed westward from France, Portugal, the Netherlands, and England. For the next 100 years, European explorers and their ships sailed back and forth across the Atlantic Ocean, exploring the continent of North America and updating their maps based on what they learned. As time passed, the Europeans began to build colonies in America. Europeans began to settle in various places in America. Colonies are areas of land where native people are ruled by people from another country. Describe what you see in this picture. Did you say that you see three ships and that you remembered Columbus had three ships? They were the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. Well, these ships are three different ships heading to the first permanent English colony in America at Jamestown. Years before Columbus tried to start a colony in Hispaniola by claiming that the land he came upon belonged to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella. Now, 100 years later, other Europeans were doing the same thing. In 1607, the English people started one of the first colonies in the New World. They named it Jamestown, after their ruler, King James I. King James was well liked by the English people, but sometimes he used his power badly. As head of the Church of England, King James declared that everyone in his kingdom must share his religion or beliefs. They must all attend the Church of England, the King's church, and pray as the King prayed. The English people had no choice. Do you think this might have made some people unhappy if they had different beliefs than the King? Was your response yes? Maybe your response was no. Now, most people in England followed the King's command, but there were some English people who did not. One group was known as the Separatists. The Separatists had their own beliefs and how to pray. They were disappointed with the King's church. Disappointed means feeling that things did not work out as planned. So they formed their own church and began meeting in homes. If they stopped going to the King's church, were they breaking his rules? Did you say yes? No? What do you think would happen? They were punished, maybe put in jail, killed. Well, when they refused to attend the Church of England, the king was furious. The separatists said they would not go to the king's church on Sunday. If you miss the Sunday's worship service, he told them, you must pay a fine or money. And, he warned them, if you continue to miss church services, I will command my soldiers to arrest you and throw you in jail. The word fine means to pay money as a form of punishment. You can imagine how upset the separatists became. They lived in fear of being arrested and thrown in jail. One woman whispered to a friend, "I think if someone working for the king has been watching our house." Her friend looked around nervously to make sure that no one else was listening, and then said, "My husband thinks someone has been following us in the streets to see if we're going to our own prayer meeting instead of going to church. Who knows which of us might be next?" Life became harder and harder for the separatists in England. Other people looked at them curiously, and they did not know what to do. Some people were not very nice to them, which made the separatists very unhappy about living in England. They heard that people in other countries were able to worship as they pleased. That means that other people had a choice about what religion they wanted to practice. And so the decision was made to leave Europe behind. They would look for a way to reach North America. The separatists were about to begin a pilgrimage or journey to the continent that was brand new to them. From here on, they would be known as the Pilgrims. Who were the separatists? Separatists were people in England who did not want to share the king's religion. They did not want to attend the Church of England or pray as the king prayed. Who were pilgrims? Pilgrims were the same as separatists. They were called pilgrims because they made a pilgrimage or journey to North America. After Columbus's time, did Europeans ever sail westward across the Atlantic Ocean again? Yes, many more explorers followed Columbus to North America. The Read Aloud says that in 1607, the English people started one of the first colonies in the New World. Why do you think the English wanted to have colonies in this place that was unfamiliar to them? They wanted to search for gold and other treasures. They wanted opportunity for power, and they wanted to be free to practice their own religious beliefs. What rule did King James have that the separatists did not like? He commanded that everyone practice his religion. They had to attend his church, the Church of England, and pray like he did. What did the separatists decide to do? The separatists decided to leave Europe and try to reach North America. They were called pilgrims because they tried to make a pilgrimage or journey to an unfamiliar place. What happened to people who wouldn't go to the Church of England? They had to pay money to the king and risk being arrested. How did the separatists anger King James? They refused to attend the King's Church, the Church of England. Mrs. Johnston hopes you enjoyed our story, Colonies in Native American Lands.